And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Lakers weekend, everyone. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Lakers Fast Break Pop Culture Cosmos, where we cover the latest news and trends in pop culture each and every week, twice a week, wherever you get your podcasts. On the latest Pop Culture Cosmos, we talk about what's coming up this weekend with the two great movies that are out there that have hit the box office, Elio and 28 Years Later. We talk about Xbox's future plans and more. So go ahead and check it out today, right now, wherever you get your podcast. And I hope to bring you something special for tomorrow as we get through another great week of pop culture right there at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Of course, our good friends, the Lakerholics crew, Lakerholics.com, they're all abuzz about the change in ownership, which I'm going to ask Stone about here in just a second. I'm going to go ahead and mention them, Lakerholics.com. Joe Soros, Experiment on the Joe Soros channel. Go ahead and check them out today. Like and subscribe. Also, Lakers Corner, Clutch Talk, all those great channels on YouTube, Lakers Live with Zach, all these great places, including also as well Daniel Barry Sports Highlights. Yo, Alfred Esmond, go ahead and follow him on Twitter. Also as well, speaking of Twitter, at report_court for Mr. Stone Hansen right here. Legends channel, I got Next Sports Media, all these great places. Empire Jeff TV covering the Lakers and Dodgers. All these great people. You got to go ahead and support, but also make sure you support us by giving us a like and subscribe, comments, all that good stuff to get us on the algorithms and whatisms and NBA tradeisms and draftisms and Lakerisms, whatever. Doesn't matter. You can say I hate Joe on all your comments, after we're doing it. That's fine. Actually, you might see a lot of hearts after that one, but that's okay. You can do that. The thing is, it's comments that hopefully will help the algorithm grow and allow the channel to grow as well. So if you can do that, plus like and subscribe, be a member for $2.99 a month, all that good stuff, it is greatly appreciated by all of us at the Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football, and right here at the Lakers Fast Break. Eric, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, my friend. But here today to go ahead and talk about the NBA draft coming up this week, and also as well his thoughts on the ownership change and a little trade with a future Hall of Famer going to a new place. He's a good man here. Good man indeed. He's wearing his Dodger blue to hopefully help spur the Dodgers on. It is, of course, a good man indeed. You got to go ahead and check him out today on the Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast, along with the great guys there. And also, if you always want to know about the NBA Draft, a good place on the Twitter, aka X, good place to start is right there at report_court. It is Stone Hansen. Stone, great to have you here. He is going to be a great part of what we do on Tuesday. Yes, by the way, we'll be on after tonight. We may even do a show on Monday, but Tuesday, we're going to have the mock draft and we're going to have teams go ahead as far as the draft, trades. Who knows what's up? I'm going to start setting the rules out tonight as far as how draft and trade is going to go down and who gets which teams and whatnot. If you want to be part of it, go ahead and hit me up, LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. But it's Stone Hansen. Stone, great to have you here. The chaos is just about ready to begin. In fact, a little bit of it has already started today. Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Kevin Durant is traded. The Lakers have a new owner, but not a new governor. Your thoughts, my friend, first up, of course, on the Lakers' brand new ownership change, $10 billion evaluation. Mark Walter is now the owner of the Los Angeles Lakers. Jeannie's still the governor for the foreseeable future. But your thoughts on the LA Lakers and the new owners. First things first, my friend. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. It was much needed, right? The Lakers, I think it's been known for a while now, have not had the most money. I think that report coming out of the Lakers not even having synergy, which is a big part of scouting and evaluating, and not having access to that for their entire um, team scouting and also player scouting department is a big. They're the only one out of 29 teams that didn't have it. Like that's a massive, blunder. But I think this new ownership, seeing what they did with the Dodgers, as someone that is not as familiar with baseball as probably Joe is, and he can probably speak on it better. But seems as though they have, at the very least, had a great amount of success since taking over. And you hope they can do the same thing on the basketball side of things. But and then obviously Genie is remaining governor at this point. I'm pretty sure it feels like that's just in title only. I don't think you buy a team for $10 billion to not have a say in how it is run. So I would expect that the Genie obviously will remain a part of the franchise in name. I don't know how much on in day to day operations and big picture she will be a part of it. But I'm excited. I think as much as the Bus family means something to this organization, it's been a long time been due for a change, and I think this is the exact kind of ownership that we have been wanting here on the show, and just as Lakers fans in general.
That is very true. And I wanted to go ahead and say, I like the fact that this team will now be going through change. I don't want to say yet that, like other people say, oh, yeah, money is now no object, blah, 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 as far as from what they see at the Dodgers. I have a feeling that if you're going to go ahead and do this, you're going to go because the fact that there's still a governor in place and there's still pretty much everything is still status quo. I think you'll see a slow interjection of funds into the Lakers organization. I don't think it'll happen overnight, like some people say, and like money is no object. I think it will happen. It's a slow progression. More people added on to scouting, more people added on to the executive branch, more people added on to corporate, more people added on to the coaching staff, training staff, etc. You're going to see that build up over the course of time. And then, of course, the facilities being upgraded, things of that nature. You will see that stone in the course of time. But I think at right now, overnight, I think it does set the precedent that the Lakers do have, I think, a better future and a better path going forward eventually once they free themselves up from the, I guess, control or any say that the bus, the Ramby, I know Joe loves that word. He specifically said how much he loves the word Ramby. Joe, Ramby, that whole inner circle. Once that gets broken up, I think a lot of things will become a little bit clearer in the future. Stone. Oh, you're on mute.
Excuse me, sorry.
No worries. I'll go.
It might not be immediately either. Obviously, this is a ownership that is used to one certain sport and how that sport operates. The NBA is much different. Money, regardless of who the ownership is still an object just because of the CBA and how salaries work and all that. You can't just get any player you want as you can in baseball. But I think that we should see an impact just on how this team runs and hopefully just the day to day stuff. But it might be, maybe it's not just this summer. Maybe it goes into that up to the trade deadline or even into next summer to really construct a team in the way they want, and the way they want might be different than how Genie and Rob have been trying to play it. So it might not happen immediately. It would be nice if it did, but long term and big picture, I think uh, this is what I think can bring the Lakers back to the perennial contention that we've all been wishing for since the the good days, I guess you can say, the golden era.
Absolutely, indeed. But once again, it is Stone Hansen, go ahead and check out his big board today. I'm going to be flashing it up here in the not too distant future, but right here at report_court. Go ahead and take care of that right there. As far as the NBA draft, to know what this man knows in regards to the prospects that are coming out as far as for the NBA later this week. See who he thinks should go where or about where right there at report_court. And we're going to go ahead give you guys a little bit of a glimpse into that here in a little bit. But Stone, there was a trade that was made today on the eve of the season ending with Game 7 coming up later today. It is, of course, Kevin Durant headed to Houston uh, for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, the number 10 pick in this draft, and 5 second-round picks. Yeah. Your thoughts on this, my friend? I just think this is 75 to 50 cents on the dollar. Your mileage may differ on that, but I think that the Suns, they better hit on that number 10 draft pick, because if they don't, this is not going to look like a good trade at all, Stone.
Yeah, well, so I think for me, it's less about the it's less about the value that they got for KD, because he's old, obviously. I mean, still, he's a great player, but in the NBA, age matters quite a bit, right? If he's 37 and he's got 1 year left on his deal, that's it only has so much value in the league, no matter how good you are. But the fact that they took on a massive negative contract to get rid of one of their only two positive assets on their roster really, I think, is just bad asset management. And look, there's KD's been on the market basically since last year. It's been widely known that the Suns were looking to move him, and he did not want to be in Phoenix since the trade deadline and how that all went down. The market for him probably not that great, right? Still 37 years old. I think most teams were pretty uninterested in giving up even a lot of young players or anything. There's this pick 10 is probably the best asset that was offered to them for Kevin Durant. The issue is the long-term bad salary that is Jalen Green's contract. I don't think Jalen Green is a particularly very good player. Definitely not somebody you want to build your franchise around. I don't know how the Suns view him, but I think that taking on a negative asset of Jalen Green's degree in exchange for one of your only two positive assets is just bad value. The 10th pick is fine. If they had a contract or two that made up what Jalen Green's is in his short-term money, I wouldn't mind this haul at all, because you're still getting the 10th pick for an old player, probably the best asset, like I said, that you can get for him at this point. But taking on a massive negative deal, I think, is really sort of where it falls apart for me.
Yeah, for me, again, this better hit for Phoenix as far as the number 10 draft pick overall. Otherwise, those second round draft picks, I don't know how good they'll be, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm assuming because they're Houston draft picks, unless they're traded picks from Houston, I really haven't checked out which second round draft picks they are. Most of those may not be very good at all, like 50 to 60 in the draft going forward. So Jalen Green, your mileage may differ. His erratic performance in the playoffs, notwithstanding. I mean, there's been period of times where Jalen Green has been one of the hottest players in the NBA, and then there are other times where he just looks like he should be taken off the court immediately. So we'll see if Jalen Green can mature into a really, really good player for whatever he was picked at. Because remember, he was a top 5 pick the year that he came out. We'll have to wait and see. Dylan Brooks, I think he'll probably be moved at some point again if there's a market for him, because I'm not sure he'll be a great fit in Phoenix. I know that they have young talent at the forward position they want to go ahead and develop instead of him, but we'll have to wait and see how that gets out. And does this solve their center problem? Will they get Malak or someone else that's a big at number 10? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, Kevin Durant is on a move to a place he wanted to go to. I know that Minnesota's bummed because I know Minnesota really wanted to go ahead and get him because I know his aunt wanted to really play alongside his mentor, but I don't think Kevin Durant wanted to play in Minnesota. But he gets to go back to Texas where he starred originally at the University of Texas. So we'll go ahead and see how that lays itself out for Houston. And does this change the dynamic for Houston? Something they sorely needed was a go-to scorer in the clutch. We'll have to wait and see. But if you have Kevin Durant that has any gas in the tank left, that could be a definite possibility indeed. But once again, it is Stone Hansen. It is me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching and listening. Go ahead and support Stone Hansen by liking and going ahead and following what he does today on report_court. So, Stone, we have your big board, a little bit of taste of it right here. I want to go ahead and pop up your first few picks right here on the big board. The Stone Hansen big board. There you go, right there. I don't know if I can zoom in anymore because it doesn't always do what I want it to do. No, it's not going to do it what I want to do. But I will go ahead and say I'm going to go ahead and then just take this off there. So if you guys want to go ahead and check out the particulars on it, it is right there at report_court. Unfortunately, sometimes these Twitter posts are not always YouTube friendly as far as it's concerned, but I can say right now that it is just going to be an exciting draft. You said in your evaluation that you didn't think it was the worst draft in the world, but you thought depth-wise it had some issues. Your thoughts again on overall on what this draft may bring to NBA teams after what I think most people considered to be last year to be not a really high draft at all.
Yeah, I think for me, the draft as a whole is sort of middle of the pack, right? It's not awful. It's definitely not great. I think it's sort of right in the middle there, which is more than I expected coming into this draft. Obviously, last year it seemed a lot more promising, and then as I began to scout it more, it was just it seemed like it would be a pretty poor draft. But the more and more I watched, the more I started to like it a little bit. Um, it definitely lacks depth in the second round. I think it for me at least drops off. That said, uh, my the players in my second round are much different than the NBA's. So the players that will be in the second round that I like that are top 30 on my board will probably still be there in the draft. But in terms of the overall depth, I think there's about 43 players in this class I would give a full contract to in comparison to past couple years. Usually that's around like 50, 55. And I think that the first round talents, though, are a lot more interesting to me than at least last year. I think it goes deeper. I think there's about 25 first round caliber players in this class for me, whereas last year I think there is 18 or so. So I think the back half of the first round is a lot more interesting. But I think that the second round is going to be thin for me. But in the NBA, there'll be some depth, if that makes sense. There'll be players that I like that will fall into the second round. Is the best way to phrase it.
So first off, I know that's not the biggest news at all. You are probably in unison with almost every draft expert that's out there with Cooper Flag at the number one pick. I just think it's a natural. But the question is, initially, will his growth be stunted because of where he's going to be shoehorned in the lineup of the Mavs? Because AD, he's got to be the four. It's got to be the four. It's got to be the four. And then, of course, they have the two centers. They also have PJ Washington on the team. They've got a lot up front. So Cooper Flag, obviously, it's going to be a great pick. I think he's got a great future. But do you think some of that has to be cleared away by Dallas at some point for Cooper Flag to really, reach his peak value?
Considering Kyrie's out, I think he immediately becomes the second best player on this team, regardless of who's there. The three is not the ideal position to me. I probably would rather play him at the four, but Cooper's so good that I don't think it really matters that much. I think he's a plenty good enough shooter to make it work. Great passer, obviously. So uh, I think there's times you're going to see Cooper be the lead initiator for the Mavericks if they don't make any moves to balance out the positional needs of the roster. You mentioned all the bigs and forwards they have. Maybe they try and move one or two to bring in a guard or two. I don't know how that looks. I know there's obviously been a lot of people talking about maybe they bring Reeves in. I have no idea, but I think that it would make sense for them, to positionally balance themselves out. But I think wherever the team is, Cooper will show clear in a way that he's the number one pick and was worthy of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about that as far as Cooper Flag is concerned. The number two pick, the consensus is Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. Your thoughts? The thing I think with Dylan Harper, it's not the fact that he's the number two pick. It's the fact that should he stay the number two pick and not be moved elsewhere by San Antonio, because the talk about if Giannis says in the next few days, I want to go, does San Antonio become a destination with that number two pick? I personally think that if Giannis became available today or tomorrow, that De'Aaron Fox should be the one that moved, and going forward, have that nice young backcourt and Dylan Harper and Stephen Castle. You're not going to have the greatest shooting. And I think that's something that one of those two players has to become a better shooter, in my opinion. I don't know your thoughts overall on Dylan Harper, but um, the only thing that gets me on him and Ace Bailey is you have two of the greatest talents in college basketball. And I understand no matter how bad your surrounding cast was, you were not even able to get them into a NCAA berth. So that kind of just has me a little worried about either of those two individuals as they come into the draft. So.
Yeah, I mean I have Harper two on my board, not in a
Mhm.
tier of his own like most people though. I don't think that he's far and away the easy number two choice. In fact, for the Spurs particularly, the third guy on my board, Colin Knippel, I think fits better, and uh, I would consider taking him there. But ultimately, I think the best path for the Spurs is to trade that number two pick and bring in a star. I think, and it just yeah, very rarely do you have the chance at truly like a generational talent, and the fact that they have one on the roster, in my opinion, means they should accelerate their timeline. Don't try and slowly grind this thing out to get where you want, because with this new CBA anyway, you're going to have to end up cutting ties with somebody, just because of you can't keep a ton of youth on the roster without them being on their rookie contracts. Wemby's kicks in, his extension kicks in next year, I believe. I think they should just go for a star now. I think go for it. Wemby is not the player that needs time to develop and become this star. He already is one. So I think do it, go for it. You don't have this window of opportunity as a franchise, all the time. And the fact that they already have their number one player, I think they should really look and search for a star. And if that means giving up the number two pick, so be it.
Now, Com Knippel, you have in that bracket tier with Dylan Harper, considered by many to be the best shooter in the draft. He, among the draft experts, seems to be a favorite. So there's a little bit of a divide from what made teams think of Com and what the draft experts think of Com. I mean, it's a slight thing because I've seen Com maybe as low as seventh or eighth on as far as actual draft boards, but to most draft experts, he seems to be a lot higher. So, your thoughts on Com Knippel? Why is there a little bit of a difference between where you think he should go and where he ultimately may end up.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'd consider him at 2 for some teams, and I don't think most people even think that because most people, I think, view Harper as the far and away number 2 guy. I think with Khan, it's people I think are sort of pigeonholing him into the classic white shooter that is a great accent piece, but can't really do much besides shoot. I don't think that's the case with Khan. Obviously, athletically, there's limitations that people have and fears people have. I think he's extremely strong. He's coming into the league extremely built. He can take a lot of contact into his chest. At the point of attack, defensively, you see guys just sort of bump off of him, and he's so strong that I think he can guard threes 1 through 3. Um, the concern, obviously, is the foot speed and lateral mobility. That I don't think is ever going to change. But we've seen with Reeves, like even though he's a bad defender, he's become a very good player. I don't think you have to have those things to be NBA worthy. I also think, and this is what sets Khan apart, I think, for me, for a lot of people, is that during this is now a decade at my 10th draft, I've never seen Khan is amongst the best to me as a shooter, like one of the best shooters I've ever evaluated, and he's also like that one of the best processors I've ever evaluated. And for me, those two skills, this is the highest level of intersection of those two skills that I've ever seen. I've never seen a player that is this good of a shooter and this good of a processor at the same time, and I think it allows Khan to be uh, much more than people think he can be. I think this is Khan has and I'm not saying this is likely. This is more his top end outcome, that the best case scenario. Like I think Khan could be like your leading scorer on a team, and I don't think people are allowing themselves to think about Khan in that way. I think they allow him. They just sort of think he's this tertiary or complementary type of player, and I think Khan is a lot more than that. So that's why I have him at 3 on my board.
Once again, it is Stone Hansen at report_court. Plus, he's part of the great triumvirate of guys that are part of the Upside Swings NBA Draft Podcast, now on YouTube. So please like and subscribe there. Great channel as well. Stone, when it comes to it, as far as there's seems to be lately always a player that drops that was expected to be picked higher or high up in the draft and just has a tendency to drop for whatever reason. Cam Whitmore, also as well, of course, what we got, Dalton Connect as well. He also dropped pretty steadily from where he was originally thought to be picked. The latest possibility in your eyes, could it be Ace Bailey? Because Ace Bailey, he's refused workouts from the 76ers and others. He's been very adamant and vocal about what he thinks his path in the NBA could be. This could turn off some NBA teams. Kid's got talent, but he's got flaws as well. And again, I go back to him and Dylan Harper. You can't get those two together in college basketball to get yourself into an NCAA tournament bid. So with that said, where do you see as that player, whether it's Ace Bailey or someone else that could be dropping from the top part of the draft?
Yeah, I think it's Ace. I think that there's a chance. I think the floor is probably Chicago at 12. Like I don't think he falls past there, but I do think there's a chance we see Ace fall out of the top 5 for sure. I think that you could see him in the back half of the lottery where he's going 8, 9, 10, maybe 11. Um, the problem to Ace for me is I like Ace as a complimentary guy. I think his ground coverage defensively is great. I think the shooting can be really valuable. He's super athletic. I think he can be a great finisher. I don't think you want I don't think you want Ace being your top 2 or 3 option even as a scorer on your team. I don't think if you're drafting Ace for that, I think you're setting him up for failure. I don't think Ace is a star. I don't think he should be viewed in that way. But I think as a complimentary guy, he could be really valuable. That's why I have him at 9 on my board, which is lower than a lot of people. But I think there's real processing issues. The shot selection is horrendous. Um, I, I think that teams are not just figuring that out, but I do think that uh, Ace wants to make sure that teams view him in a particular way that I don't think every team is keen on, and I don't think every team picking that high is interested in making Ace their star. So we'll see how it goes. But I think if I had to pick any name in the top 5 or something, it would be Ace for me. Like I said, I think he can be a really good player. Like I think the tools are there, but I don't view him as. I don't think the possibility of Ace being a star for a winning team exists.
The thing is, though, you better not tell that to Ace Bailey because according to interviews and things that I've seen and heard, Ace thinks of Ace much better than a lot of people do, or that evaluation from you right there. He thinks himself as a top player
As he
coming
should,
out.
though. Every player should think of themselves as that kind of player if they want to be much better than they're being presented. So I don't blame Ace in that regard for thinking that he is that player. I would caution teams that think he is as well, because at the end of the day, it's the team's how the team wants to use him is how Ace will be played, and I think that the team should take a smart approach on how they view Ace rather than take into account how Ace views himself.
Once again, it is, of course, Stone Hansen at report_court. Please follow his great work on the NBA draft today at report_court and the Upside Swings NBA draft podcast. So, who picks at number 3, Stone? I know that Eric's asking that question. Uh, Com Knipple, do you think he'll go that high? I mean, if you're a draft expert, most of them have put Com Knipple that high, but uh, conventional wisdom says of VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey, those guys that have been slotted there or right around there may be someone that they might go with instead.
I'd say it's a 50-50 chance right now between Knipple and VJ. I would say it's one of those two on draft night if the Sixers stay there. I don't know if the Sixers stay there. I don't know if the Sixers will pick at 3, but if they do, I think it's between those two players.
Because a guard is not exactly an area of super need for Philadelphia. I think they need more as far as along the wing personally, but again, we'll have to see how this plays itself out. If the Sixers get a good deal, I think they should at least consider it. And we don't even know the status of Joel Embiid, if he's ever going to be fully healthy for any part of any season going forward. So we'll have to see what happens there. Parade on Figueroa. And Dan, I didn't forget your Lakers questions as well. Parade on Figueroa. Gerald and Stone, looking towards the future, would you be open in trading Reeves for a high draft pick in this year's draft? I've already been on record, Parade, on 3 or 4 occasions that says I would personally, but he has to be bundled with a. Well, I'd actually put it out where it's Reeves, Stone, and a good player and a like 9 to 20 draft pick, something like that. Or do you package it out even more so that you can get more back? Like I was actually surmising the other day of a New Orleans trade where you get back 2 or 3 good players and a first round draft pick for Austin Reeves. So let me ask you this. Austin Reeves, I've said, is the best trade asset the Lakers have. I'm on record for saying that this summer. I think they really need to consider moving him because he is not going to get any fresher. And also this fact, he's not going to get any cheaper because he's looking for big money this time next summer. So your thoughts from what Parade on Figueroa on Twitch was asking, do you think they would be open in trading Reeves for a high draft pick in this year's draft?
I don't know what the Lakers are thinking because I don't know how this new ownership operates. Like, I don't know how much of a say they have, how involved they're going to be in this draft. So it's really difficult to predict right now what the Lakers are going to do. What I personally would do is sort of along the lines of what you said. I wouldn't want to trade Reeves just for like a top 10 pick or
It'd
realistically,
have
like
to be bundled with something else so that
exactly.
the
So
Lakers get two players back at the minimum.
yeah, like a Herb Jones in New Orleans #7 pick, like that would interest me.
Or I
Or
was talking about a bundle where it'd be the like Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, Eve Missy, and the number 26 pick, for instance, bundled with a package for Austin Reeves or something like that. Something where you get more players coming in that can help
yeah,
you than going out.
yeah, and I mean for me, like the only Laker that I wouldn't trade is Luca. Anybody else, I'm very open to moving. I think Rui should be moved for sure. But yeah, I mean, for me, like if it's just Reeves that is being in the trade, I personally would rather get like a really good player and a pick. Like I said, like Herb and 7, or if we're talking about before the obviously this isn't possible now, but before the Rockets move that 10th pick, maybe like um, Tari Eason in the 10th pick, like something along those lines of a really strong wing defender and a top lotto pick would be interesting to me. I don't know what the Lakers do. It's so difficult to predict now that there's an ownership change and all that. So, the past regime, I would say it would not happen. I also probably would have said the Luka trade would never have happened. So, I have no idea what the Lakers are going to do. But I am excited to see. But yeah, I would consider moving Reeves. It wouldn't be off the table, but it would have to be the right package.
Blue, Rui is also someone that the Lakers should strongly consider trading. I know you say that he's been shooting over 40% past 2 seasons, but for what he gives you defensively, what he does rebounding wise, it's your mix. He gave great effort in the playoffs, but you see the results there. Yeah, I think you can replace that production. But also you have to remember you have to pay him next summer as well. He's a free agent. He's an unrestricted free agent, Blue. I think that's what you're forgetting is that he's an unrestricted free agent next summer and he can walk away for nothing. So if you lose Rui for nothing, I think that's something that is absolutely reprehensible in today's NBA. I mean, if you look at it from an LNB standpoint, as far as the Major League Baseball, the Dodgers, even the Angels, lost Otani for nothing. You cannot let good players walk away for nothing. And Austin Reeves and Rui Hashimura both have the ability to do that next summer, which is of high concern to me. I don't know how much Rui gets you as far as if you tried to say, hey, how far in the draft can we move up with if we trade Rui or what you can get return. I don't think you can get as much for no. He's a UFA div. He'll be a UFA next summer. So that's again, if he walks away for nothing next summer, that's a big problem, Stone. What exactly do you think he could get as far as a trade as well? Because he's again of course Austin Reeves. He's also a very valuable trade asset too as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rui on his own, with the money that he makes and being a restricted free agent, doesn't land a ton. I think I would
No, he'll
rather
be
use.
unrestricted next year.
Yeah, yeah, next year, yeah. Um, I would rather move him in a package just because of the salary that he has, and obviously Austin makes less. So combining those two salaries to me makes more sense than parsing them out individually. I just think you have more options to get better players.
Mhm.
Rui on his own, like if we're talking in terms of draft value, I would say probably gets you a pick in the 20s. I don't think you get much higher than that with him.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, like I said, I would prefer to use him as part of a package with the salary that he has to open up more options.
Okay. And if that's the case, maybe I would hold on to Rui and maybe consider doing something at the trade deadline instead, if that's the case, because a late 20s just for him is not something I would probably consider unless it comes with a starter level player coming back in the trade as well, along with a draft pick, which again is up in the air on what you evaluate Rui as. But again, 40% shooter past 2 seasons. I get it as far as from three. I think that's something that is valuable in today's age and age. Blue is correct on that, but the fact that he's an unrestricted free agent looms large over the organization about what direction they want to go ahead and do. And as far as do they want to go ahead and get value on the dollar for Rui and for Austin, or do they run the risk of losing them both next summer? We'll have to wait and see how that works out. But I'm worried about that when it comes to the Lakers. But checking out the rest of your first round, one of the interesting players I see you have high up, you actually have two that some draft analysts don't have as high up as you, is Kasparas Yakushionis and Colin Murray Boyles are both what I thought was, according to most draft, from what I've seen and evaluations, 10 to 15, 10 to 20 in that range. Kasparas, I think, goes a little bit higher. He may go even high as 7 or 6 to some players, but you have him even higher than that. What appealed to you about both these players that has them so high up as far as it?
Yeah, with Jonas, I think that the shooting is really intriguing. I know he was for a good portion of the draft cycle viewed in the sort of range, in the like the 4 to 8 range by most people. That really fell off during the second half of the season at Illinois, where he had a wrist injury. The shooting numbers went really down. Turnovers are a big concern for a lot of people. For me, it's something that he showed when he played for FIBA in Lithuania. That his biggest issue to me is he always is looking a few seconds at the player he's going to pass to before he does. And I think that's a pretty fixable issue. It's not like he's turning the ball over because his handle's terrible or because he's dribbling it off his foot or anything. So I think the issues there are fixable with him, and I buy the shooting a lot more because of the injury that happened with him to his wrist. And I think that he can be like a player that's both on and off ball. Like you can use him as your primary initiator because he makes some pretty insane passes, or you can use him. He's a good enough shooter to be completely off ball. So I like the positional versatility as a guard there, and he's big. He's like 6'5". So I'm pretty interested in Jonas. Colin Murray Boyles, somebody that is weird because he's like 6'7" as a center. And I do view him as a center. A lot of people view him as a power forward. I think he's a center because he's got some of the most insane strength that I've seen. It's up there with the likes of Zion Williamson, with just how strong he is. He bullies people out the way. The wingspan is massive. I forget exactly what it is, but he's like 6'7", 6'8", and I think his wingspan's like 7'2" or something like that. Maybe even longer. I can't remember exactly, but the wingspan and the strength, I think, allow him to be a full-time center, and I would use him in that way. And I don't buy the shooting at all with him. I think the people that are thinking that his prospectum relies on his shooting are flawed, because I think he's much better around the rim, and the touch just isn't there as a shooter. So I'm not interested. He's a super smart defender, even though I think he's a 5. I think he can go out on the perimeter against a lot of forwards and wings and defend them quite well. So I really like him. I think that he's a real interesting player, unique player that you don't see too often. But I think he's extremely in high level feel on the court, and I would be willing to bet on that with the outlier strength that he has.
You're right, Jay. No matter how bad the coaching might have been at Rutgers and the surrounding talent, 2 lottery picks, and you still didn't make the NCAA tournament. I know with Rutgers, that's always going to be a question to see how these guys develop in the NBA. Again, you have 2 lottery talents, and you just couldn't get it done. So we'll have to wait and see how that plays itself out as far as the NBA draft. But yeah, absolutely. As we talked about earlier, when it comes to Rutgers and Ace Bailey and Dylan Harper, to see how that plays out, especially if they go 2 and 3, you're going to be scratching. That's the theme. If they go 2 and 3, I think people will always like, hey, and they didn't make the NCAA tournament. They were really that bad. So yeah, it's very interesting to see. If Jalen Green got traded, as he did today, Jay Young is asking, is Austin as good as gone?
I don't think it has any correlation personally.
No, but I think again he is the Lakers' best trade asset, and again, if there is the possibility, I mean, they're going to offer him. He is still eligible for a contract extension. They can offer that to him this summer, I believe, in August. And if that's the case, he'll probably refuse it because he has more money opportunity window in the summer of next summer. So, I mean, you can see the writing on the wall. And you can see, I know Austin has said he wants to stay a Laker. I mean, he's saying all the right things. We've heard that rhetoric before from other players. So the thing is, though, the Lakers only have one, as of now, one first round draft pick they can make in a trade. And then also, some second round to swaps as well. So Austin is your best valued asset. And sometimes you got to make hard decisions in order to improve the team, but we'll definitely see what happens. Stone Hansen from ad report _ court. The rest of the first round, who do you see as one of those under the radar picks for you? I know you, from what I'm seeing, you have some guys, and that's why I like that you do not fear what others have been saying about where they have some picks. You've got some guys in like your lotto picks or your first round picks that others do not. Who do you think is going to be a good value pick if he goes at whatever point in the draft? Some of the under the wire players, under the radar players that you think really stand out to you.
Yeah, there's a couple, and I'll also say too, like I'm working on writing a piece on this, but it probably won't be done until after the draft. But
Mhm.
I think it's important to not bend to consensus because the mainstream and consensus is what got Wiseman as the second overall pick. When a lot of us had Wiseman out of the first round, we didn't have Wiseman as a first round guy. And I think that would have by a lot of people been insane. Like, how do you not have a top three guy in every mock draft and everything, not in your first round? Uh, NBA teams get things wrong too. I think that's important to remember. So, open minds, I think, lead to uh, good discussion and more possibilities. So, I have Maxime Reynaud. I have him at 14th on my board. That's a player I think that can be get you can get a lot of value out of the pick that he goes in, which is probably late first, early second. He's a big man out of Stanford, great shooter. Even though he's like 7 foot, I think that he's going to be a real shooter in the NBA. Not one of these, one or two attempt 3 point shooters per game, but probably more like five or six. Um, he operated for Stanford as like a hub where he would do like 6, 7 dribble handoffs per possession, set a ton of different screens, has insane touch around the rim. Obviously, as a shooter as well, great passer, can pass on the move. I mean, there are times where he was doing behind the backs and over the shoulders as a 7 footer, which is really interesting. Defensively is the concern that people have with him, and I understand it to a degree. He's got to work on his lower body strength. The foot positioning further out of the paint, I think, can be polished a bit more, even though it's good offensively as a post up guy. Um, I think he's good at blocking shots with both hands, can change direction in the air. He just can't take a lot of contact absorption through the chest or lower body because he doesn't have that kind of frame. But I do like him, and I think that coming into the draft, you have a case. He's older, he's a senior, but there's a case to be made that he's one of the best offensive players coming into the league at currently. Another guy that I find pretty interesting that I think will go later is Drake Powell. Um, Drake was at UNC, really tough fit. Had, I believe, a 13% usage, which is extremely low. Um, but I think he's an insane defender. He's got great athleticism. If you watch him drive to the rim, that he gets the angles of his shins go really close to the court, and he can get down really low as a forward or as a wing, excuse me, and go all the way to the rim. Extremely quick, has great speed off of his first and second steps towards the rim as a driver. I think in high school, he showed a lot more ball handling promise. It wasn't great, but I do think that he's more competent handling the ball than people think in terms of just being a straight line driver towards the rim. So I'm pretty in on Jake Powell as sort of a project pick that people view him as. But for me in this class particularly, I'm willing to take that fairly high, considering the players I have behind him. So I like Powell, and I think both he and Reynaud will probably go a lot later than they should, from my perspective.
Before I get to the Lakers and some of your high and low, interesting choices, interesting projections that you have, or interesting as far as where you have them on your tiers, because I did read all of it and there was some very interesting reading. I'll just say that. I want to go ahead and hit Eric's question. Rasheer Fleming and Noah Sengi, where do you see their draft stock? If you remember, guys, you can check it out. You can see where their draft stock is exactly at report_court on X.
Where I have them, or where the teams have them, because where the teams have them, I think Asenga is probably a top 10 pick this year. I think he goes in the top 10. And I think Fleming is top 20, I would say. I think there's a chance he goes in the back end of the lottery, but more likely somewhere in the teens. Um, I personally have them, I believe, back to back, or I believe Asenge 18th and Fleming 20th on my own board. But I think the teams value Asenge quite a bit more than me.
So we'll get into Lakers right now. And again, I want to go ahead and make sure everybody know that you have some very interesting choices as far as where you tiered some of these guys, which I am going to touch on in a little bit. But I want to hear, of course, and obviously a lot of people are here, of course, for the Lakers. They're right now at number 55. And let's just assume that they're not going to trade up. I really am strongly encouraging that they do, because the NIL and those players that 30 or 30-ish players that went back to college or Europe or wherever, that had tried out and evaluated that, had themselves evaluated by the league. 30 of them left uh, to go ahead and go back to college, whatnot. That hurt the draft as far as the first round, late first round, second round, in my opinion. The big guys that are still in this draft, there's one thing that there is, I think, a good bit about that is different from other years, is that there's a lot of 7-footers that are available after pick number 15 per se. Your thoughts on some of these big guys? I know that one in particular I was very encouraged that you have a much higher opinion on than others, because of Amari Williams. I'll just put it out there as if he is available at 55, I think that he was a no-brainer because of his sheer rebounding skill. Plus the fact he's a really good passer from the post and really has good vision as far as I'm concerned, and still can get the lob. But your thoughts on some of these big guys that are out there? Zikarsky, Hansen Yang, as we would talked about before. Great name, that Hansen. And then Zikarsky, I said, Golden. Your mileage may vary on some others. Your thoughts on some of these big guys, and can the Lakers find the pathway to possibly getting one? Obviously not going to be the guy that you want to put in there as your starter day one right away, unless something really blossoms right away. But still, to have a big guy that could have potential going forward for this team.
Sure. I did a little prep, so I have a list of big man names. I'll go through them and read. I'll read their names. I'll sort of give you a draft range where I think they'll go and the likelihood they'll be there at 55, and then I'll tell you where they're on my board. And you and anyone in the chat are free to ask me about any of them. So I have obviously, Murray Boyles and Malawach. They'll be top 10 guys. They're not going to go, or at least Lotto guys or near Lotto. They're not going to be there. Reynaud, who I just talked about, I think his draft range is probably 25 to 40. I don't see him being there at 55. Yohan Berenger, His stock has risen a lot. He's a first round lock. He won't be there at 55. He might go late lotto even. Amari Williams, that's someone that you pointed out, someone I like. I have him 23rd on my board. He's probably a second rounder, and there's a chance he's there at 55. I don't know how big that chance is. I would say his draft range is kind of anywhere between the 30 pick and onwards. So I'm not quite sure how likely he'll be there at 55, but there's a chance. Zakarski, who you just mentioned, uh, I like him. I have him 27th on my board. I think there's a slight chance he'll be there at 55. He probably gets picked ahead of there, but there is a chance, even if it is slight. Izan Almanza, I like him quite a bit. He's 36th on my board. Good chance to be there at 55, but he's just not really the right kind of center I think the Lakers need, even though I like him. Yannick Conan Niederhauser has been someone that a lot of Lakers fans have been interested in. I think at this point after the combine, he played himself out of the 55th pick range. I think his range is probably anywhere between the 25th pick and the 45th pick. Very, very slight chance he's there at 55. And if he is, I'd be pretty interested, but I don't think he falls that far. Ryan Cockbrenner, not going to be there. He'll probably be a first rounder. I have him 54th on my board, which is a lot lower than most people, but his draft range is probably 20 to 40. Janai Broom, that's someone that could possibly be there at 55. I'm 63rd on my own board. I'm not super
He
interested
did
in
not
him.
test well at all in Chicago.
Yeah, one of the lowest verticals ever at the combine. He's extreme. He's much older than a lot of people think. He, to me, like the tier I believe I have him in is like I would maybe consider giving him a two-way contract, but he wouldn't be like a priority guy for me. Julian Reese doesn't really get any attention whatsoever. I like him slightly less than Janai Broom, so I'm not super interested in him, but he's sort of in that range for me. He will be there at 55, just probably not someone I would be clamoring for. Lachlan Ulbrich is a big man name out of Australia that's gotten some recent buzz. He might be there. I think his draft range is probably the 40th pick and onward. I'm not super into it. I'm 72nd on my own board. Just not someone I'm too into. Abina Onachili Keelan. This is a guy who played at a really small school. You probably won't see his name much anywhere. He will be there probably at 55, probably undrafted free agency. He's 83rd on my board. Not super interested. Vlad Golden, another name, big man name. A lot of people like. I'm very out on him. I'm 87th on my board. I think there's a lot of athletic limitations there. I think defensively he's just not good despite the block numbers in Michigan. I think there's a lot of contextual things that go into that. He might be there. I think his draft range starts at the 40th pick or so. And then Mitchell Saxon is the other center I had ranked on my board. He's 100th on my board. Not someone I'm super into. He will be there at 55, but no real interest in bringing him in. So the two names I did not mention that are on my board, I think are the most likely to be there, would be Dylan Cardwell and Clifford Omarui. Both these guys, I have 47th and 48th on my board, back to back. I have interest in both of them at 55, but my main interests at 55 would be Amari Williams and Raka Zakarski. So I went through a lot of names I know. If anybody has any questions or any intrigue in any of them, I'm happy to tell you what I think of them because I've watched all of them pretty in depth at this point. So I feel confident in my evaluations and hopefully can give some clarity to any questions.
Before we head on out, my friend, I have to go ahead and talk about some of the two of the, priority summer leagues that you have there.
I did forget. Yeah, I forgot one.
Oh, is that Hansen Yang?
Yeah.
Your namesake, man.
Yeah. Not unfortunately not the best Hansen. Uh, I wanted to like him a lot more than I did, but I think that he's just very limited athletically, limited mobility wise. He played in the CBA, which is an okay international league, the Chinese Basketball Association. They have a lot of massive big men over there that are 7+ footers, built like Hansen Yang, just big dudes. I think he's just very slow around the rim as a rim protector. Despite the block numbers, he's playing in more of a funnel system, not somebody that I think has a lot of recovery defensive tools. Offensively, I don't think he can shoot. He has some highlights of being someone that can shoot from three. And I think that's the thing that people are attached to with him is a lot of people are viewing Hansen Yang as this unicorn. If you watch the highlights, they're there. This is why I'm very against people watching highlights. Watching full games gives you full context. Highlights are only going to show the best parts of a player's game, and it's very important to see the entirety of it. I think with Hansen, the touch is not good around the rim. I don't think he's a good projectable shooter, and defensively, I think he's pretty much a negative in most areas on the court. So I'm pretty out on Hansen Yang. I would invite him to my summer league. There's a possibility he could work his way onto a 2-way contract, possibly. But in real life, he's probably not slipping past pick 40 in the draft.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. He's probably going to be going somewhere in the second round is what I've been able to see, and most people have projected as. But again, you put the hours in, you put the time in on these guys, and I really appreciate it. Again, for the entire big board, the Stone Hansen big board, go ahead and stop on by at report_court. And if you have any questions for him there, please go ahead and hit him up on the Twitter or Blue Sky as well. But before we head out, these two names really stuck out to me because both have been talked about in the processes of the lottery itself. And your numbers, they're your number 64 and 65 choices right now as priority summer league players, which again really goes against the grain. And that is Nolan Traore, brother of Lakers two-way player Armel Traore, and then also as well Liam McNeely. So funny if he went as a undrafted as a summer league Nolan, then played alongside his brother on the Lakers summer league team. That would be a hoot when both of those guys have been talked about as lottery players. Your thoughts on why you were so cool on those two players and why others may be very warm to those players?
Yeah, big disparity. I'll start with Traore. I for me personally, like, and it sounds very harsh if you watch him in totality instead of highlights. I think it makes more sense. I think he's one of the worst decision makers as a point guard that I've seen. I think he makes a lot of really bad reads. He's very predetermined. Whatever he wants to do with the ball, he's going to do regardless of what the defense adjusts to. And I think that gets him in a lot of turnover issues. He doesn't see the court in its totality. He will lock in on one thing and try and execute it regardless of where the defense is. I don't think he's a very good shooter. The touch is pretty bad. He's extremely fast. Like that's the one thing that really stands out with him. Great burst, great pace manipulation, can change speeds very well, but it means a lot less when you can't exploit that. And I'm just very out on Traore as a whole, thinking that he can do any of those things as a point guard, which is what he'll be at whatever level he plays. With McNeely, it has nothing to do with his season at UConn. He obviously shot poorly there. I know he's a good shooter. I watched him at Mount Verde. It has nothing to do with the role that he was put in at UConn. I think that athletically, he's one of the worst players in this draft, to the point it might be disqualifying as a prospect. He's extremely weak, extremely slow, and I don't think that bodes well for him. You have to, even though you're not relying on your athleticism necessarily as certain player types, you still have to reach a certain threshold to be an NBA player, and I don't know if McNeely does that. He's a specialist. He's a shooting only specialist. I think that is something that really limits him in the ways that he can do it. And if you are going to be a specialist, you have to be great at all these micro skills, your foot positioning, how you read things off the ball. I don't think McNeely is particularly great at any of those things, so it really limits him being a specialist already and not having those micro skills to excel in that kind of role. So those are the main reasons why I'm fairly out on both those players. And to me, they're more summer league guys, but neither of those realistically will be falling out of the first round.
So with that, it is of course Stone Hansen at report_court. He is one of the best to do it out there as far as the NBA draft. And again, if you have questions for him, hit him up directly or comment below, and I'll make sure that those questions get to him as well. 805 says draft talk is fun, though, but I doubt any of these guys are coming to LA again. At number 55, a lot of these big guys that the Lakers have targeted could be gone. So
Here's
if
what I'll
they're
say too about the 55th pick, real quick, is that
Mhm.
whatever player you get at 55 is going to be flawed. You're not going to get a player that is without major
Oh,
flaw.
Bronny James is flawed.
No, actually, his last name's James. I'm just kidding. Um, but whatever player you're going to get at 55 is going to have major flaws. It's just the way it is. You're picking at 55. Um, the other thing I would say is the majority of names at 55 probably have a very good chance of just getting them in undrafted free agency as well. If they're there at 55, they're probably going to be there after the draft, and you can take a swing on them as a two-way player, as an undrafted free agent. So, um, yeah, I think, like I said, my main targets at 55 that have any sort of realistic chance of happening would be Zakarski and Amari Williams. And if those would be the big center names. There's a couple, if you're interested, I could go through real quick, a couple non-centers that might be at 55. I'd be interested in Ruga Poplar. That's someone I'm very interested in. Has a chance, I think, of being there at 55. Max Scholga, someone that plays extremely hard, can play both guard roles, good shooter. Javon Small is another kind of guy that can play both guard roles, really strong point of attack defender, smaller guard, but has a good handle. Those three guys in particular stand out to me as non center options that I would prefer to have, probably, and in some cases over a couple of the centers I mentioned. Um, but I think for Lakers fans, it's important to not get too hung up on who we take at 55. Lower your expectations. But I think there's some interesting names there, even if they're not centers. That I think you're just trying to get an NBA player at 55. They don't have to fill a role.
Fair enough, indeed. One last question out of curiosity. Cedric Coward is a name that a lot of people have brought up as far as a draft riser, 6'7", has been known to shoot the three, really good percentage, could be a potential 3-and-D player. I hate to throw that word now. It's like now so passe, but a 3-and-D type player. Uh, where do you see him falling in the draft? And if the Lakers do try to make a trade that would get them somewhere, I'm not going to say in the high, 7 to 10 type range, but maybe let's say in the 11 to 25 range. Could he be someone the Lakers are after? Because he does fill a couple needs the Lakers have, if you believe other draft experts that are out there.
Yeah, I think uh, I like Coward and okay a bit. I mean, I think I'm 25th on my board if I remember. Um, I think he's a good shooter, a good bet to be a really good shooter. Um, he's long. He's got good extension around the rim. I think he'll be a
7'2",
decent.
I think is if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think he has a 7'2" wingspan. Should be a good finisher. Where I come down is I'm much lower defensively than most people. I think he struggled defensively. He has a really weak lower body. I think he got blown by too much by guards on the perimeter. I think he got um, out muscled a lot of times near the rim. So he's kind of a tweener in the worst ways defensively. And that is of concern for me when he played majority of his career at a pretty low level. Eastern Washington, for those that don't know, Eastern Washington College is D1, but one of the lower end D1 teams, I would say. Pretty low level in comparison to a lot of like the blue chip schools that you see. Um, majority of his game time came against there, where he's playing against much lower level competition. And even then, like there were guards that bullied him around the rim. Nobody was scared to go at him as a driver, and I think that is somewhat concerning for me, especially considering the age he's at. He's 21. Obviously, that's not old, but in terms of draft years, it's a little bit different when you're talking about developmental trajectories. And if he was 19, it'd be a lot more interesting. I would get the top 10 hype and all that, but um, I think for me defensively, I'm much lower than a lot of people, even if I think the offense can be really really good.
Well, there you have it. If you want more regarding a specific player, a specific team, go ahead and hit him up today at report_court on Twitter. And then, of course, if you just type in Stone Hansen on Blue Sky, and all these long handles on Blue Sky. I like Blue Sky, but I don't like the long handles. It just reminds me of like a Nintendo Switch friend code or something. Blah, 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 blah. Just a whole bunch of stuff there. Go ahead and type in Stone Hansen on Blue Sky. He'll answer your questions. Or if you want to hit us up, just put it below and I'll try to get it to Stone, because he will be stopping by on Tuesday for our NBA mock draft. Again, if you are interested in running some teams, I have found some potential NBA GMs, aka suckers, to go ahead and join us for that day. So looking forward to that. Plus, we'll be on later tonight after the game to talk about the end of the season and, of course, Game 7 in the NBA Finals. We'll also be on playback.tv/Lakers Fast Break. We'll have it on for you there. Stone, any last thoughts on the NBA draft before we head it out? I think it's going to be a very interesting week. Started off by Kevin Durant heading to Houston.
Yeah, expect a lot of movement. I think would be what I'm saying. If you're a fan of the chaos, you should be in for a treat. Upside Swings will be live doing a draft show. If anyone's interested, if you're not doing your own show, of course, I'm not trying to take from your audience. But I think it'll be different. It'll be it won't be consensus. It won't be chalk. A lot of the mock drafts you're seeing, I think, are going to get blown up fairly quickly because there's a lot of directions that teams can take, and I don't think there's a safe bet for like a top 10 per se. I think there's going to be a lot of different names you weren't expecting and trades you might not have been expecting as well. So I'm excited to see you again on Tuesday for the mock draft. That should be fun. But thanks again for having me.
Always, my friend. Once again, it is Stone Hansen. Does such a great job with the NBA draft. Please go ahead and check him out today on Blue Sky at Stone Hansen, blah, 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 blah. And then also as well, of course, on Twitter at report_court. His entire big board is there. Some notable names in different places. Really, he's done a great job taking the time to evaluate these players. So go ahead and give him a shout out, give him a follow, give him an appreciation that he deserves for taking the time out. Whether you agree or disagree with his opinion, please appreciate the fact that he has spent a lot of time doing this. And I'm forever grateful that he does this with us and he does this for the NBA Draft Stone. So thank you so much for doing it. Again, truly appreciate everyone out there stopping by for listening. Please like and subscribe as well for us. And we'll be back after the game tonight around 7:45-ish, 7:30-ish. I don't know. Just going to be around there. If it's Scott Foster, 9 p.m. But for everyone out there. But again, it is going to be the Lakers Fast Break coming later tonight. Maybe a show Monday. We'll see what happens. But then definitely on Tuesday for our mock draft. So for Stone Hansen, it's Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. We'll be back later tonight. And go ahead and stop on by Playback as well for Game 7 of the NBA Finals right here with the Lakers Fast Break Podcast.